Welcome to this lecture on field methods. In this video I will demonstrate how to work with the two programs ELAN and FLEX together. To start with, I will briefly introduce both programs. ELAN is an annotation tool for video and audio recordings produced by the Language Archive of the Max Planck Institute for Psycholinguistics. This is an example for an ELAN transcription linked to a segment of the audio file. You can see the audio waves here, and a translation is also linked to the same segment. FLEX is a tool to manage linguistic data produced by SIL. FLEX can be used to gloss a text and also to build a dictionary. In FLEX, a sentence like this can be glossed, translated, and analyzed further, but this sentence cannot be linked to a segment of an audio file, as you have seen it in ELAN just now. Therefore, in this video, I will present a workflow of transcribing an audio file with ELAN and then exporting it and glossing it with the program FLEX, and finally realigning the gloss transcription to the audio in ELAN. This is an example of a gloss transcription re-imported into ELAN and connected to the audio. To follow the instructions in this video, you will need to prepare beforehand. First, install the program ELAN. In this tutorial, the version ELAN 5.9 is used. Second, install the program FLEX, also called Fieldworks Language Explorer. In this tutorial, I used the version FLEX 9.0.11.0. Then, importantly, the recording you want to transcribe needs to be an audio file in WAV format. And third, you need to find the ethnologue codes of the language you want to transcribe and also of the languages you will use for translation and analysis. The ethnologue code is a 2 or 3 letter code. It can be found at ethnologue.com or also in the language catalog of the program FLEX. For example, the code for English is EN. If you have all this prepared, you're ready to start. The first step of this process is to create an ELAN transcription in a way that it can be later exported to FLEX, the program for the glossing. Note that there are, in general, many ways one can work with ELAN, but not all result in files which can be read by FLEX. So that's why this tutorial will show you how you can create an ELAN file which is later compatible with FLEX. So first open ELAN. Then you go to File, New, and you add the audio file and optionally a corresponding video file which you want to transcribe. So I will add both the WAV file and the MP4. Make sure here media is selected. And then you click OK. And you will see your video here and the WAV forms can be seen in the middle here. So now what we have to do first is to set up linguistic types. This is an important step which only has to be done once. If you do this once right, you can use the set of types later as a template for following transcriptions. So to do this, go to Type, Add New Type, and now you have to specify the name of the type and its stereotype, and all the other fields will be kept as they are. So the first type is called words, and its stereotype is symbolic subdivision. For now, just follow these steps, do exactly what I'm doing, and later you will see how it's used. The second type is called morph, and it also has the stereotype of symbolic subdivision. The third one is gloss, and this one is symbolic association. Then we get to note, also symbolic association. Then a type text with no stereotype, a type phrase with no stereotype either, and finally a type called blank with symbolic association as well. Okay, so you can make this a bit bigger, then you have an overview. You see them. The default one still needs to be kept here, cannot be deleted yet. So you have 7 types. 2 times symbolic subdivision, 3 times symbolic association, and 2 times no stereotype. And then you close. Now we have to create tiers. Tiers are lines here where you can make annotations to your audio wave files, your audio waves. So we go to tier, add new tier, and now it's similar. It's again important that you type the names exactly the way I do. There are hyphens and also underscores involved this time. The first tier name is interlinear hyphen title hyphen en. Now this en stands for English. So in case you are not using English as a language of translation, you have to use here, instead of en, the ethnologue code of your main language of translation. So then replace en by another code. Now for each tier you have to select a parent tier and also a tier type. So for this interlinear title tier, there is no parent tier and the type will be text. You can also make this bigger here, then you get an overview. Okay, let's add the next tier. And the next one is a underscore transcription hyphen txt hyphen, and now the ethnologue code of your language of transcription. In my case, it's SLP for Lamaholot. So this tier also doesn't have a parent tier, and it has the type phrase. We add it. Okay. So the next one is the translation tier. It's called a underscore translation GLS EN. Again, your language of translation. And now the parent tier is the transcription. The translation belongs to the transcription, and the type is note. Add. So you can add more translation tiers if you want. So this could be useful if you have more than one language of translation, and if you want to do that, you have to add a different ethnologue code for each translation tier. So in my case, I will add another line for a translation in Indonesian. GLS, and now I use IND instead of EN for English, IND for Indonesian. The parent tier is the transcription as well, and the type is also note. Okay, right. So we can see this quite clearly already. Now the last tier we need to add is the participant tier. It's not obligatory, but I would recommend to add it because this will be a template which you can use for later transcriptions. So the participant tier is only necessary if you transcribe recordings with more than one speaker. So then each speaker will have their own transcription line or transcription tier. The participant tier has the name A underscore participant node and EN, again your main language of translation. It's connected to the transcription, so the transcription is the parent tier and the type is node, so we add that. Okay, so you will have 5 tiers. Now the default tier can be deleted if you want. Highlight it, then go here to delete and say delete. Okay, and then close. So what you get here are the tiers which you just created. I sometimes like to sort them by hierarchy. You right click on any of the tiers, then you go to sort by hierarchy, and you can clearly see that the translation and the participant tier, they are dependent on transcription. Transcription is their parent. And the interlinear title is not dependent on the transcription. It belongs to the whole recording independently. Okay, so before we start, we save this as a template. So we go to File, and then Save as Template, and we call it Trial Template. I add SLP because that's the language for which the template is made. You can easily adjust the language of a template by just changing the final language codes here in the tier names. So you don't need to create a new template for each language from scratch. Okay, so I save this template, trial template SLP. And now I close this file. You don't have to save it. It will ask you, and we say no. And we go to the second step, where we want to start to transcribe our audio file. So we open ELAN again, or it's already open here. We go again to File and New. And now we add again the WAV file and the audio file, the video file, but now we also add the template. So here, make sure you select template, and let's see, where is the file I just created? ETF. So templates, ELAN templates, have the ending ETF. So it's very important that the extension after the dot is visible. So this is our template. I add it and I click OK. So we get exactly the same as we saw just now, but the reason why I showed you this process is because this is where you start with any new recording for the same language you want to transcribe. So you add the audio and video file and the template. And the first thing you should do now is save it. You go to Save As, and you give it a name. So for me, this is now Trial 3. Okay, so now this is saved as Trial 3, and we can start to work with it. Yeah, in terms of naming, I can also recommend to give the same file name to this ELAN file as you have for the audio file, for example. Then you know for sure that they belong together. And as the extension is different, so the audio file is WAV and the extension of the ELAN file is EAF, they will never be confused despite having the same name. So the first thing to do before starting the new transcription is to add an annotation to the interlinear title tier. And later you will never use this tier again, but in the beginning you need to just add a random annotation. How to add an annotation? Select a part of the waves here. It really doesn't matter which one at this stage. And you double click into this red field. And I again recommend using the same name here, trial 3. But you may also use another title. This is basically the title of your transcription. In general, it's recommended to use names which have some content related to what is on the recording, so you know what this is about. Okay, so yeah, so maybe actually I should not call this trial 3, but I should rather call it frog story, because that's what the story is about. And then I will also use this title here. Okay, makes more sense. Now, if you have more than one speaker, it's now time to add tiers for additional participants. You can do this by duplicating the tiers you already have for one participant. Go to tier, add add new participant. Then specify the new participant as capital B, and select transcription here. Enter the value to be replaced. It's A, and here it's B. So in my case, the participant are just A and B. You may also use completely different codes here. You can also use names. If you want to change the A of your first participant, you will have to change the tier names as well. So save. No, don't save. Close and close. You may repeat the same process also for more participants. Now we have 2 participants. You can see that here we have A and B. How to change these tier names? Go to tiers, change tier attributes, and you can click on the name and, for example, change A into something else for all which have A, and B for all which have B. But I will keep A and B as the participants. Okay. So before you can start transcribing, you need to segment your recording. So go to Options, then Segmentation Mode. Now, very important, make sure that you select the transcription tier here, not the interlinear title tier, which is pre-selected. So double click on the transcription tier of one of the participants. Now it's participant A. So it means now you should choose segments where participant A is speaking. While if you double click on B, B is selected, you will create segments for participant B. So now how can you make segments? Let's make some segments for A first. So let's say we know more or less about here. Participant A is starting to speak. we navigate to this part and we click play so we can hear.
Saya senang bercerita tentang bahasa saya dengan Ibu Hana.
Okay, so this is not yet actually the recording in the local language, but it's a consent procedure. So I go further, I search for the part where my language consultant actually starts to tell the story, the frog story. So I think it's about here.
Lane kamar tune.
So this is where he starts to speak. How to make a segment. You click where you want to start, then you press enter, and then you play the audio.
Lane kamar tune.
You press enter again to end the segment. And then you can play and go through
Kopo lame anak tune natobe lana kursi anak.
And use enter to make the segments. Now, of course, you can make mistakes by doing that, and that's easily corrected. So first, you can move segments like this, just drag and drop them to the right or the left, but you also can make them longer and shorter. So, for example, here I might want to make it a little bit longer, and also here. But actually, I also would like to merge these two into one because it's one phrase. So I right click on this, merge with annotation before. So that's also possible. So usually it makes sense to make segments which are one phrase or one sentence, something like that. So now in my recording here, I don't have a second speaker, but let's just say there would be a second speaker. Then I double click on B and search for the part where this second person is speaking, and I create an annotation in the same way.
Aur woro na lima no ulu da sodam la toples.
Right. So now I have one annotation for B and two for A. Well, usually you would go through the whole recording now and create all the, oh, sorry, not annotation, but segments. So you would go through the whole recording and create all segments. But for this demonstration, I will just continue to the next step now, which is transcribing. So you go to Options, Transcription Mode. You select two columns here. The first one is a phrase and the second one is note. The phrase column is the type of transcription, so this will be your transcription, and note is for the translation. So I click apply. So what you see here now, actually your segments, they have become little boxes here where you can write in. So these are my two segments for participant A and my two segments for participant B. Now if I click into this box,
Lane kamar tune. Lane kamar.
so you can click here, listen to
tune,
and directly type into it whatever you hear. If you want, you can give a free translation.
Lane kamar tune. Kopo lame anak tune natobe lana kursi anak. Pa no aoru. Aor woro na lima no ulu da sodam la toples.
Okay, so that's enough for for demonstration. Importantly, you can always adjust actually the settings of this by clicking on configure here. So you can, for example, add another column for the second translation, or just leave out the translations for now and only work on the transcriptions. Then it's like this. You can also adjust the font size here. I usually choose 16 as this gives me, it's a bit bigger than usually preset. Okay, so let's say you have all transcribed. Then there's one last thing which you have to do before you export this file to into a Flex compatible format. So first we go back to annotation mode. Now you can also see your transcriptions actually here in the lines. So you can basically you can even export it before you're ready with transcribing, but you cannot or you should not export it before you are finished with segmentation. So all segments should be done before you export this. But if not all translation and transcription are ready, it's fine. That's not really a problem because it can be continued later. So if you have more than one participant, as I have now, you have to do one more step before exporting. Go to tier and then create annotation on dependent tier. Select first all transcription tiers, then click next. Then select all participant tiers, so not the translation, and click finish. So now there are for each transcription an annotation is created at the participant tier. And now we have to go again to tier, then label and number annotation. Select first the A participant tier and then include label A, or again whatever your label is for the first participant. Deselect include participant number and then say okay. Now every annotation on the participant tier A has an A. We do the same for B. Here B, okay, close. Let's see if we have the B here in the annotations of B. Yes, we do here. Okay, now I save this one more time and then I go to File, Export as Flex file. So here you have to select the interlinear title tier, and after that the only task is to click next, 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 and search for a suitable location, usually the same folder as you have used before. And I also again recommend the same name. So in this case we have Frog Story and save. Okay, finish. Okay, so now we are done with ELAN. We can close this file, close this, and now we create a new Flex project. Or you can also open an existing Flex project if it's the same language you are working on now. So we go to Fieldworks Language Explorer 9. I will show you now how it works if I create a new project. I click create a new project. So you have to choose a name. I will now call this really trial 3 and click next. Now I choose the vernacular language, which has the code SLP. That's the fastest to find it if you know the code. Otherwise, you can also search by the name. Make sure you select a language which has exactly the code which you were using in your ELAN file. That's important. Then next, English is already given here. The second language of analysis can be added in the next step if needed. Set up analysis writing system. So I can add a second one here, add new language. I will use Indonesian. Yeah, Indonesia. Okay. Yes, so this one, and click OK. And OK. And finish. So note that it's also possible to change these language settings later. So if you make a mistake here, it can be changed later, no worries. Okay, so here we get our Flex project. And if all is well, it will be very easy to now import our text, which we just exported from ELAN. For this, we have to go to the text and word section. And then we go to File, Import, Flex Interlinear Text, Browse, and search for the one we just exported, which is Frog Story. And say OK. And here it appears. Lane kamatune, kopulame anak tune, panu aoro, aoro. That's what I typed just now. There are a few things I would suggest to do right away. First is you highlight the whole text and you choose here numbered list instead of normal. This gives you line numbers which correspond exactly to the numbers of your ELAN recordings, of your ELAN segments. I will quickly show that. So if you go again to ELAN, I opened the file which we just had. I go to Options, Transcription Mode. You see the numbering here. So if we make this small, we can position it next to our Flex project. And let's make this a little bit smaller as well. So this setup would allow us to easily actually again listen back to what we have here. So number 3 is
Pa no aoru.
And this is also one reason why I said if you haven't finished the transcription yet, no problem. So this means that you can also complete a transcription line like here, and you can even copy paste it into the ELAN file if you want. Yeah, like this. Okay, so if your transcription is done, you can in Flex, you can analyze it, gloss it. So I will just show you a little bit of this. So if you go to the Analysis tab, you can create a lexical entry for each of the words or morphemes. Here I already created some. So Lane is analyzed as one morpheme. Here I can create a new entry for this. This is a preposition which I will just gloss as locative here and select category preposition, then create. And this is entered into the lexicon, and the word gloss is taken automatically from the lexical entry here. The same can happen with this word. It means room, and it's a noun. I create the entry. Right. So if I use this symbol, for example, it will gloss all the occurrences of this word in the whole text the same way. And here I just say OK for this one. This one. This is 1. It's a numeral, and we have it here again, so I can press this button and it will be 1 here as well. Well, one last thing I might quickly show. You can also define a morpheme boundary by just entering a dash. So now this word has been divided into 2 morphemes. The first one being a noun, meaning dog, and the second one is a specificity suffix. Well, you might be wondering where is the free translation, and also where is the information on the participant who is speaking, as we had 2 participants. So they don't appear here usually automatically. So the easiest way to make the free translation appear is click on this little arrow next to it, add line, and then free translation. Sometimes it does not appear directly. No, it doesn't. So it's better to go to configure interlinear, and here you can directly add whatever lines you want. You can also remove lines so that they are hidden if you find them not useful for you. So I add now the free translation, and I also add the note, because here the participant abbreviation will show. So you might decide to remove the word glosses here because they usually mainly repeat what is in the lexical entry. So I hide them now. So let's see how this looks like. So you have the free translation and A, B here. Unfortunately, in the baseline, it's not possible to see the participant abbreviation, but in the gloss you can see it, and in the analysis as well. Okay, and it's also possible to add a second free translation by saying add writing system. So I have a second line here to enter an Indonesian translation, for example. Okay, that's all I want to show for now on how to use flags. The final step of this tutorial is, let's say you are more or less done with your glossing and translation and transcription, and you would like to reconnect this to the audio file in ELAN. So you have to export your glossed text. To do this, make sure you are in the text and words field, as I am here, and then you go to File, Export Interlinear, and you choose the first option, ELAN, say more flags, and you say Export. Here you choose the text you want to export. We only have one here now, and I say OK. And the best is now to name it a bit differently, because you already have a frogstory.flags text from the earlier export from ELAN. So now I name it frogstory glossed and save it. I have done this before, so I replace the same file with the new one. Say yes. I will just close all the programs and just leave ELAN open without a file, and now start a new ELAN file. File, new, add video and audio. I usually make this video a bit smaller, then it becomes visible if you click somewhere in the wave line. So we have audio and video here. Now we import the glossed transcription from Flex. Go to Import Flex File, search for your exported glossed transcription just now. In my case, Frog Story glossed at .flextext. Make sure this box and this box are ticked. Include interlinear text element and import participant information from node. Also here for tier types, create for all basic elements, and then say OK. So you will get this. The last thing I would recommend to do is to reorder and arrange the tiers a bit. So I will just make the tiers visible better and go and search for the parts where we have transcriptions. Yes, that starts here. Now what you can see is, well, first I sort them by hierarchy usually, and then you see that the translation is on top. I prefer to have them on the bottom, both of them. So English and Indonesian translation. Here you have the words, then the morphemes, and this line again shows the morphemes, which I just hide for now because it repeats the same. And also the morpheme type is not so interesting for me. Stem, I leave that out. So I like this setup. Just to show you why two lines are useful here. So here's our second participant. For example, here we have the word, but the morphemes show ao and auru. Now for the second participant, I haven't reordered yet, so I hide this one. I also hide the morpheme type, and I move the translations to the end, or better this up. Yeah. So now you see that not everything has been filled in. It exports exactly what you have done in Flex. You may add translations here. It's still possible. You can also edit the glosses. It's all possible. But usually I would recommend to, if you want to continue working on the glossing, do it in your Flex project, and when you are done, only then export it. So this setup represents a final state of your work, or a current state of your work, which you can use for presentation or archiving, for example. So thank you for listening to this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and I wish you good luck with working with ELAN and Flex.